Hello YouTube, I'm RJ and welcome to my workshop. Today I want to talk to you about my parts washer and some of the things that I've done to modify it, make it a little bit better, improve it, and some of the PPE and safety equipment I use with it that makes things work a little bit better. So let me tell you about the parts washer itself first. So this is a 40-gallon model. I have used many times the 20-gallon model from Harbor Freight. It's a fairly inexpensive parts washer. A lot of people use it. Works very well. I've got friends that have it. I've used it there. However, I've done a lot of engine rebuilding, and I found the 20-gallon model just to be a little bit too small. I've got a tape measure here. The full clear opening on this thing is 42 inches and the little shelf in here is 32 inches. So you can fit a small block Chevy crankshaft in here with plenty of room to spare. If you're ever going to do some inline 6-cylinder or something like that, you could still fit it in here without too much trouble. So that's really why I went with a 40-gallon model. I just wanted the extra. I wasn't concerned about the extra fluid volume, just the physical size, so I could get parts in there. And I had the room to be able to use it. So this unit, they do not sell at Harbor Freight. I bought this online. I don't remember exactly where I got it from. I think if you look, maybe Northern Equipment, Tractor Supply, a few of the other bigger houses may have these. And it wasn't $200 if I'm remembering correctly. I've probably had it 2 years now. So take a look around. I'll try to come up with some links, put it in the description below so you can go to it. Been very happy with it. It's an inexpensive model. It's not the top of the line Uber bells and whistles, but for what I'm using for it works great. The first main modification, and I've talked about this before in other videos, is casters. This thing, these legs originally went all the way down to the floor, and they're a sheet metal leg they're a little bit heavier, but they go all the way to the floor, and the thing sits stationary. So I had some scrap 1.5 by 1.5 angle iron, 11 gauge, which would be about 1/8 of an inch. Bought myself some 3-inch casters, locking casters. I actually paid money for those for once. And so what I did is I liked the height that it was originally at. So I took a couple measurements, measured how high it was, built myself the frame, put the casters on it, measured that. And then what I did is I drilled some holes, bolted it through the legs, and then actually cut the legs off at that height. So my final height stayed the same. I didn't increase or decrease, but I got my casters put on there. So I don't use this very often. It gets buried off into this corner. Some of my other videos, you see a couple of toolboxes behind where I'm standing. It's usually buried in behind that because I don't use it that often. So it's a great thing to bury back into the corner. So casters is great. It took me a couple hours to put it all together. The casters probably cost more than anything else, especially because I got the steel in the scrap. So that's a huge improvement. The lower shelf is nice. I keep a couple extra cleaning supplies and things like that down there. Before I forget, fluid. Lots of discussion online about different types of parts fluid. This is high-tech parts cleaning solvent. Better known, I believe this is Stoddard parts cleaning solvent, the generic stuff that you've seen for years. I know there are a lot of different options out there now. There's water-based solvents, things like that. My shop is not heated, so I had to have something that wouldn't freeze. And this was inexpensive. I could get it at the local farm and fleet type store. I have a total of, I have 2 5-gallon drums of that in here. So even though this has a capacity of up to 40, I've only got 10 gallons in there. I really should put one more in. It's really kind of low. So ideally 15 gallons is, you can get away with 10 gallons and I've gotten away with 10. 15 would be better. So if you do get one of these, just so you know, that's about how much you're going to need. So that's the fluid I use. Like I say, I know there's many other options. I've been using this stuff for years. If you use good PPE, it's really not an issue. So speaking of PPE, the two best things that I've spent money on, this is a 35 by 45 PVC polyester apron. This thing, I look like I'm in shop glass, and I don't know how that'll do on the microphone, but this thing is great. It keeps, you are forever splashing when you're doing solvent. When I worked at the engine shop, I was the low man on the totem pole, so I cleaned parts an awful lot. And boy, I wish I had one of those when I worked there. Safety glasses, obviously. I'm not going to be turning this thing on right now, so I'm not going to have them on. But the other thing that is very nice are some good gloves. Some shops I've worked at have had these gloves that come up over the elbows. Those are nice. These ones are good enough for me. I got a big package of them. These are extra larges. I'll look up, I haven't found these like on Amazon. I'm guessing these are probably in the range of 14, 15 mil thick. They're pretty heavy duty. I use these for all sorts of things. Acetone. I was mixing concrete the other day and I hate getting that stuff on my hands, so I use these. They worked out really well. So these things are great. And when you puncture a hole, you just chuck one and then you get another one out. So get yourself a package. If you're going to do it, just don't buy two. The one downside to these is they do not breathe at all. Your hands are going to sweat, especially like when I was doing concrete. I had them on for quite a while. My hands really got wet and sweaty. If you take these things and just take them and throw them on the bench like this flat, they will stay damp inside forever. So I found a 2x4 or something and I just stuck them on that and set them like that and they dry out overnight. They're great. So this parts washer at some point in time is going to get an appendage sticking off the side where I can slip these gloves over top so that they'll dry out nicely. But get yourself some good, heavy, thick gloves. You'll really thank yourself. Your hands will thank you. So I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer, show you up close of what I've done to this. There's a couple of key modifications that have really made things a lot easier. So come on in. Okay, so a little bit close up here. I'm going to show you around the thing. Like I say, I've done some modifications here. This is a removable tray. This just lifts out. You can see I keep a nice little selection of wire brushes, tubing brush, and I keep a little plastic tray in here. I find that works pretty well when you've got small parts that you don't, when you drop the part on here and it rolls off into the tank, that's kind of a nightmare. An old mayonnaise jar is another good one. They keep in there, works well. So those I try to keep handy in there. Over here on this side, you've got your pump. So down in here is the pump. This is the outlet here. This little piece sticking out is the nipple sticking out is plastic. So it's a plastic pump with a plastic nipple sticking out, and then I'll show you in a second why that is important. The inlet is over here, and then your on-off switch is outside the tank over here. You can just barely see it. So this comes with this metal nozzle, and it works fine. I mean, it's a bit rigid, it's a bit stiff, and what would happen is there is that little metal ring around here to kind of hold it so you're not breaking the plastic pump. But as you can see, when it's in its normal position, that's as far as you can get. And you cannot adjust the flow. When you turn the thing on, whatever volume's coming out is what's coming out. If you want a nice little trickle, too bad. If you want a nice hard stream, well, that's pretty much what you're going to get. The other thing is, and it's, you get down to this end of the tank, you've got no reach with this nozzle. So quite quickly I realized this wasn't going to work for me. So let's put on our thinking cap. Line lock, nice squeaky things. You can see these. We'll see how the camera likes this. Let me see if I can get my hand out of the way. So give that, they're called line lock. I got these on Amazon. This was a kit that had the tubing. It was set up to do 4 13-inch nozzles. Comes with different, so this is a larger diameter nozzle. I've got a small diameter nozzle on there. The fan nozzle. Little extra tubing. I haven't used all of it yet. So I bought that, and then the other one, and I'm going to put links into the description of all of these things. So this is line lock as well, and these are, got that glare out of there. These are 1/4 inch male NPT valves. So that is the key thing. And the key, one of the main things is that there's 2 in here. First off, this is just a pipe thread down here, the connection from the original nozzle. So I use some of the Barb Tite fittings. I talked about them in an earlier video. I'll put a link to in the bottom to those fittings, and a piece of air hose. This is just a little piece of air hose. And so there's a Barb Tite fitting at this end and the Barb Tite fitting at this end. Just made myself my own little assembly there, and so I got a custom hose that fits there. These are just some pipe nipples, so I wanted to be able to have an outlet on each end, so I had room to, I could get to parts, either end of parts. But, well, I'll go to that in a second. So this is just pipe fittings, screwed together. But what I did do is on these 2 long pieces of pipe, I welded a little piece of band, 2 by 2 inch band, 1/8 inch thick, and I welded it up, and then I just drilled a hole through the back, and that's what holds this thing on. So I will see if I can zoom in. Yeah, you should be able to see that there. So that's how that's on there. It's, like I said, just a little piece of banding welded on there. I kind of held it in place. Well, I didn't hold it in place and weld it because I'm over top of the solvent, but I held it in place, marked it, took it somewhere else, welded it real quick, and that worked out fairly well. So back up here, and so 2 heads. Like I said, getting that extension down there, now I can reach all the way down here, which is great. The other thing is what I was talking about before is do you want a trickle or do you want a high pressure stream? So I've got the smallest nozzle on this one because sometimes you want a really good quick stream, solid stream, and so that thing will push pretty well. That's taking all of the output of the pump and running it through a tiny little nozzle. Well, say you're not looking for that. You don't want to be jetting things out. You want just a nice little dribble, trickle type thing. So by having a second nozzle, you can open this other nozzle up and just spray it back into the tank, and it's stealing half of the fluid out of this nozzle. Now this, if you notice, this isn't splashing very much. You get a little air pocket once in a while. Then if you end up, you can close this side up, and when that thing starts hitting, it'll put some pressure on it. But the other problem is like I say, it splashes pretty good at that point in time. So that's why it's nice to be able to adjust it. If you want a little bit of a trickle, you just open this up part way and kind of adjust your volume that way. And then having this fan type nozzle over here is quite nice as well. And it looks like I'm getting a little bit low on fluid. Remember that whole discussion about only having 10 gallons in here? Yeah, that's starting to bite me. I haven't used this in a while, so I think some of it has evaporated. Here we go. So this fan nozzle works pretty well also. But having the 2 to be able to balance how much pressure you've got coming out of one or the other has been really helpful. Instead of just getting plastered. Sometimes you just want something nice and gentle, just trickle on there, and you're just getting wailed on and it's spraying all over the place, so it's really difficult. The last thing I wanted to talk about directly in here was another little safety thing. This is a fusible link. If you have a parts washer and you don't have one of these, it's kind of hard sometimes to, if you've got a big name brand, a high quality one, you're going to be able to get replacement parts. These may be a little bit more difficult to find. This is actually 2 pieces of metal that are soldered together. If this thing ever catches on fire somehow, you get a flash fire real quick, the solder that holds these 2 pieces together will melt very quickly, and when it happens, it'll drop and close it, which should effectively knock out the fire. So, and you notice I'm not really impeding that by these plastic nozzles. They fold down quite quickly. So if you've got if you make a homemade parts washer tank, it's kind of hard to replicate that itself, but maybe you could buy this assembly. It's not a bad thing. If you've got a water-based parts cleaning system, not a problem. But if you're going to use a flammable liquid or even a combustible liquid, it's a really good thing to have. So we're going to wrap up here. I'm going to show you one other tool that really makes this quite helpful. Okay, this line lock tubing works great. The one thing that I will tell you, these are the installation pliers, and I don't remember, they're $14, $15 maybe. Again, I'll get you a link. I didn't buy these at first. I can put these things together. Who needs installation pliers? Take it apart, all you gotta do is kind of grab a hold of it and snap it apart. Works pretty good, so you can make different lengths. Go to put it together, you gotta squeeze that thing good, and it wants to, oh, you can do it. I can do it. It's a pain. Worth every penny. If you look close, and I think we're able to focus really fairly well. There's a area that's a little bit narrower and one that's a little wider. So you take the narrower one and drop it right in front of the camera. You slide that piece in. You take the wider one to put it down there. Line the thing up. Snaps right together. Like I say, worth every penny. When you go to do this and you try to struggle with it 15 times and it makes your life really miserable for a few minutes. So like I say, you just line those up, snaps right together. So installation tool, worth every penny. Make sure you get one of those. So there you go. That's my 40-gallon parts washer. I've been very pleased with it. Like I say, the only disadvantage to the two disadvantages: if you don't have a lot of space, it takes up more room than the 20-gallon one. However, for me, the 40-gallon, the space is what I wanted. I needed that larger amount of room. The biggest downside to it is you just need more fluid, which costs more money. I thought about trying to make a spacer in there and take up some volume, but I'm just gonna go buy another drum of fluid here one of these days. And like I say, the Stoddard fluid, it works. It's basic parts cleaning fluid. Don't use gasoline, something that's truly flammable. Flammability, flammable, the flash point is below 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Combustible is above 100 degrees, so like diesel fuel is combustible. Try to use something that's designed for parts washing. But like I say, this has been very nice. I've been very pleased with it. The modifications, the two heads for location has been great, and then to be able to adjust the pressure is a huge help. So that will work on, you know, you're gonna custom make it. Like I say, the little Barb Tite fittings work good because you can make your own. You know, that was a foot of air hose that I think I used to do it. Use your imagination. Take your parts washer, put the heads where you need them, do whatever you need to do to make it more convenient for you. Plus, I got to make some more stuff. Half the reason it's fun having a workshop is to make stuff. And if you're making stuff for yourself, even better. So, really like this. I hope these modifications give you some ideas, give you some, get the creative juices flowing in your head to come up with some ideas how to hot rod your own parts washer tank. So thanks again for watching. If you get a chance, if you're interested in these workshop type videos, please hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it. And come on back into the workshop with me again sometime. I hope you enjoy the time out here with me. Thanks again. Take care.